Welcome to yet another one of my late reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Essential phone, and I'm going to help you determine whether it's worth it or not in 2019. So without further ado, let's begin. So for the price, especially if you buy this phone in like the used refurbished category, you really can't beat the build quality that you're getting here. You have titanium sides, which are unheard of in most smartphones. You have a glossy glass back and front, obviously, so you get that really premium feel that you weren't getting with phones of its era, and still even to this day in this price range. The speaker quality is okay for what it is. It's a down-firing unit, so I've heard better. It's a little bit tinny, lacks some bass, but it will do the job. And also be wary, this phone does not have a headphone jack, so if you're somebody who needs wired headphones, look elsewhere. It also features USB Type-C, which is now the standard. But yeah, overall it has a really nice industrial look and feel. It has edges you can grip on. It has those nice titanium sides, as I mentioned, and yeah, just overall you really can't find anything better for around this $200 price range that this phone sits in. Moving on to display, this phone features a pretty decent IPS panel. It's 5.7 inches diagonally and features a 1440p resolution. It's a little bit of a weird aspect ratio, which is also exemplified when you just look at the phone. I mean, like, it has a weird-ish kind of look to it. You have a large chin, you have that interesting camera cutout notch at the top, so it's a little awkward, I would say, when you first use it, but after a little while it'll grow on you. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll love it or hate it, but I think most people can get acclimated to it, and it does look really premium because the display stretches all the way to the edges of the phone. The image quality for me is like a A- low A. I mean, you are getting that sharpness with the 1440p resolution, but once again, this is IPS, so the colors and contrast aren't as great as something you would get with an OLED display. Same thing with viewing angles, they're kind of but once again, I'm probably gonna be biased because I'm using a XS Max, so keep that in mind. But yeah, in general usage, this display is great for YouTube watching. I mean, content looks super crispy, especially if you can watch it in higher resolutions than 1080p. It's great for Netflix and gameplay, web surfing, etc., etc. And once again, I'll repeat this, although this time for display, you really can't do much better than what you're getting here, especially comparing other budget phones in this $200, $250-ish price range. Battery life seems to be pretty decent, especially considering the fact this phone sports a higher resolution display. From what I've read and from what I've experienced, it gets about 5 to 6 hours of screen on time, maybe even 7, depending on how you use it. This phone also features quick charging, although it's not as quick as something like VOOC or the dash charging you with the OnePlus phone, but it's still there and is a great feature regardless. So yeah, I would say the battery life is pretty admirable for this phone. Don't worry about it, you know, like dropping off or being terrible. It'll most definitely get you through the day, even with some medium to heavy usage. Moving on to the most controversial bit of this phone, it's its camera setup. I guess the best way to sum it all up with video and photo is to say it's just okay. It's okay for like menial tasks and menial things, you know, like a grocery list, taking a quick little like boring picture of your family. It'll do the trick, it'll do the job. No worries, but once again, like, don't expect anything great from this camera, especially in low light in some more challenging situations. You can also attach a 360 camera to the integrated pins. That was their kind of modular sort of system they wanted to integrate into this phone. I was actually warned not to buy it. I'm sure it's better now because the person who told me not to reviewed this phone in its earlier days, so I mean, it's 30 bucks on Amazon if you want it. It's not that big of a risk. Don't buy this phone for the camera quality. The stabilization with the video is kind of the image processing is just kind of the overall look of the pictures and videos are just kind of It's just like, once again, okay. I want to stop myself right here for a second because I want to clarify. I am saying that most of the images turn out just okay, and that's largely true, but if you do get the right situations, the right kind of lighting, and the right object, you can get some pretty decent images. I wouldn't say like great or spectacular, but you can get some nice photos with the bokeh or portrait effect. You can get some nice sharpness and some contrast. So the image quality in some situations is not bad at all. It's actually decent. So don't think that it's completely adequate like I was saying. I guess that's sort of not true. But yeah, you can get some nice images out of this phone. It's just a little more far and few in between, in my opinion. So if you can accept that, buy this phone for other reasons, like for its really nice looking design and for its performance, which I'm about to elaborate on. And to end on an actually pretty high note, let's discuss this phone's performance. Beyond its unique design, this is another one of this phone's major selling points because you get a bloat-free stock Android experience. This phone features a Snapdragon 835 and 4 gigs of RAM, which are two specifications that are insane for this price range. And I'm talking used and refurbished, this kind of like $200, $250 price range. You really cannot do better. I mean, like the Moto G6 is priced similarly at full retail. So like, keep that in mind. So paired with Android Pie, the user experience is pretty much consistently buttery. App management and multitasking is great too. With that 4 gigs of RAM, I don't really have to reload a ton of apps when I'm using this device, and I can jump back in between apps even after a while of not using them. UI animations on the whole are pretty much consistently smooth, although I do have one gripe which I'll elaborate more about in a minute, and the integrated fingerprint sensor is super quick and accurate as well, very comparable to something that you'd get with like a OnePlus device. The one little gripe that I have about this phone has to do with display latency. I think it has to do with performance, but it might be a display aspect as well. I don't know, but whenever I'm scrolling through UI elements, especially the app drawer, things just look a little more choppy than what I would get with my iPhone XS Max or other phones like my OnePluses. Maybe I'm spoiled, I don't know, because like, let's be real here, I'm willing to spend money on some of the best smartphones that are out there because I love technology, because, you know, like this is like one of my main passions. For most people, this probably isn't an issue, so like keep that in mind. There is definitely bias on my part, but that is something that I do notice, and if that's gonna bug you, then I would look elsewhere for a different phone. But keep in mind, I will say this again, the performance on this phone is really stellar and one of the best you can get. It's once again a very stock, vanilla experience and very favorable to people who don't want all that extra bloat and icon packs and extra crap you get with other user experiences from Samsung and LG and other companies like that. But yeah, I'll reiterate overall once again, insane performance for what you're getting. The Snapdragon 835 is still a great processor, especially paired with the really, I would say, substantial 4 gigabytes of RAM in this phone. That's really all you need. Anything beyond that is just kind of extra. Games run well, apps open quickly. You should have no issue with this phone. It is a powerhouse still, and it's especially great for the price you pay for it. And I'll repeat myself again here, do not buy this phone new. I do not think it's worth $499. Buy it used or refurbished. I bought this phone refurbished off of Amazon for $229, which I think is a total steal, so keep that in mind. You can also pick one of these up off of eBay for like $180, I've seen at cheapest. So do your homework, look around, you can buy this phone for a really great price. So yeah, that about wraps things up. I hope this video helped you out, especially if you're looking at this phone and wondering if you should buy it or not. I think it's a great, I'd say, budget alternative to like, you know, like a Moto G6, like a newer budget-oriented phone, kind of medium, lower end. This is an insane steal for what you're getting, once again, with the specs and the display and the design. So yeah, totally pick one up. I really do recommend this phone. I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like in this video, comment if you have any questions or suggestions, and subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one.